Hi, this is Jan Tinklenberg, also known as Jan Tink. Welcome to my YouTube channel and blog. I was very inspired by the recent release from My Favorite Things Stamps of all of their rain-related stamps, and I thought I would show you how I achieve rain effects using Copic markers. This is something I figured out how to do a while back, and I always find it fun because I love stamps that have umbrellas and rain. It's just one of my favorite things. And of course, this was one of my favorite things from their release, so let me show you what I did. For this, I'm going to use My Favorite Things Rain or Shine. It's so cute, and I love this little girl and all the little duckies. I'm going to use some of their cardstock, Tropical Teal, Pineapple, Berrylicious, which is a great color, and some Neenah Solar White 110 pound and 80 pound for the image. I'm using Hero Arts Infinity Dies circles, the stitched Wonky rectangles from My Favorite Things, their Fishtail sentiments, and their Cloud Edges stencil, Berrylicious ink, their hybrid black licorice ink, VersaFine Onyx Black for the greeting, a Jelly Roll number 10, some Doodlebug washi tape called Springtime, and these primary sprinkles, which are not available, but you can use Puppy Love instead, and of course my MISTI. And lots of Copic markers. Now this is the point where I'm really going to speed things up. I'm using my MISTI to stamp the image of the little girl in the center of my cardstock. I made this to go with MFT's latest sketch challenge, and so I want to stamp this so it will fit inside a circle, which is part of the sketch. And now I'm going to color. I'm going to color her face first. And I always start with the darkest and go to the lightest. And I'm going to get this part of the coloring out of the way so that we can get to the rain effects. So I'm going to list all the colors for the markers on the right side of the screen so that you can follow along. And I'll just play some music at this point. Okay, now I'm going to start putting in the details of the rainy background. I'm putting in a horizon line just above the level of her feet because when you look at people like this, you are not looking at them like straight across. There's always a horizon line. It should be up a little bit because the looking at them that way, and that's how they would look to you. If you put it right at the level of their feet, it's going to look a little odd. So go ahead and put it up behind their feet. And I put some really sketchy bushes and grass behind because it's all going to be obscured by the rain anyway, and so you don't need anything really detailed, just like some marshmallowy looking bushes. And now I'm putting in the sky. The sky I'm making a aqua blue like you'd see on a kind of rainy day, and I'm going to check my infinity dye to make sure that I don't have to color like way over to the right there, because it's all going to get cut off anyway. And so I'm bringing the blue down into the bushes because I kind of want to gray them out. They're a little too bright, and so the rain is going to sort of, gray everything out. So anything shouldn't be too bright back there, but I don't want to make it look like, really gloomy, because I want this to be a cheerful card. And so I'm just blending out lighter and lighter until I get to about where I'm going to stop with where the circle is. I'm not really worried about a really smooth blend here, because obviously I'm going to be covering it with rain anyway. So now I'm using the shades that I decided to use for rain, starting with the lightest one, BG10, and I'm doing diagonal lines across the sky, across the bushes, and down to the ground, because that's where the rain is going. And as I go, I'm getting darker and darker, and my lines are going to get thinner and thinner, because I don't want the dark lines to be really heavy. I want them to be light. So as I go darker, I'm also making the lines like dashed, more skipping in places, so that it looks like rain, because rain doesn't come down in a solid. It's more like you'll see like a raindrop here and a raindrop there, but you're not going to see a solid dark line coming down. It should skip a little bit. Finally, I'm going to use my 0 colorless blender, and I'm going to move some ink away from some lines. And I want to make sure to go over and over these so that the ink moves away from those lines, and it creates a lighter line. It doesn't create a white line, but it will lighten up the color in those spots, as you can see, and make it into sort of like a blur, and that helps create that rain illusion. And I'm going to go all the way across the background doing this, and I'll go over them and over them until I get them the way I like them. And that takes a little time. I wish I could color this fast in real life. And once I'm satisfied with my lines, I'll use some pens to create some wet foreground. And the foreground is wet, and there's maybe a few puddles here and there, and so I want to make it look reflective, so I'm doing these kind of Z shapes with my pens, and I'm carrying the blue color up into the grass to gray it out again. And I'm also using a little bit of the lightest colors to create reflections. So the lightest red or orange that I used, the lightest yellow. I think I did another yellow too, just because it wasn't warm enough. And then I'm going to go and use a colorless blender just to sort of blend through things. And now I'm going to take some gray, and that one was too dark. So really I'm using C2 here. And I'm graying out the foreground so that it doesn't look so bright. And it creates that illusion of a nice wet ground. It could be cement, I don't know. And I'm going to carry that gray up into the grass, like I said, to sort of dampen the brightness. It's just a little too bright at this point. Now I'm using my Jelly Roll White number 10, which is the bold tip, and I'm creating some lines, and I'm making them dashy and skippy like I did with the white. And I'm also doing something. I'm making little splash marks with little, I put a little V at the bottom of a few of those, and that looks good. Now I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to create my background, which I did with the Cloud Edges dye or stencil, and I'm using the same color as the cardstock, which is Berrylicious, with one of these blender tools, just to create a nice cloudscape. And it didn't look dark enough to me, so I had to add more color and deepen it up. And later on I actually added a little more in the lower right hand corner just to make it look great. And now I'm going to do my image, which I'm going to do with I Love You Rain or Shine, but I want to stack it. It's the line is too long, and so I'm going to just stamp the rain or shine part right here. And I'm going to block off the I love you. I'm going to stamp that later. And I had cleaned that stamp. I wasn't really confident that it wouldn't leave an impression, so I blocked it again when I stamped it with another Post-it note. And then I cleaned the stamp, and I'm going to reposition it so that the I love you is right above the rain or shine. And that looks good. I'm going to pick the stamp up. What did we do before we had a MISTI? I mean, it was harder because you had to do it on a block, and it was, you know, I always got things crooked. I still do, even with a MISTI, but it's usually better. All right, I'm going to ink up my I love you part of the stamp, putting a Post-it note over the other. And this time I'm a little more confident that it's clean, so I don't need to put another Post-it note there. And I'm going to stamp that right there. It needs to be a little darker, so I'll go ahead. And I didn't use the Post-it note the second time because I was fairly confident that I was getting this on the right part of the stamp and I wasn't hitting the other part. And the U is still a little lighter than I would like, and I will ink that part up again just to make sure that I get it. And that looks good. So now I'm going to cut this out, and I decided I wanted to get this really precisely placed because I couldn't see whether it was centered. So I'm going to do a little trick that I like, which is to use a Post-it note. I'm going to cut a window in that Post-it note, and I'm going to use that window to center my die. And then I just put the die in the hole that was left by the die in the Post-it note, and it cut it perfectly. And I'll cut my little fishtail strip out from the tropical teal, and I'll cut my background out with the wonky rectangle. And now I'm going to assemble my card. So I'll go ahead and put a score line in my Neenah Solar White 110 pound. I go through a lot of this using this little scoreboard that isn't made anymore, so I've linked actually the Score Buddy down in my shopping list instead. All the supplies I use for this video are down in the shopping list. You can find everything that I used with convenient links for you to shop. And I'm using some Tombow Extreme adhesive, which I really like. It works really well. It sticks really well, and you just have to make sure to pull it off to the side when you want to stop the line, because it will otherwise sort of snap up and snarl up in your adhesive dispenser. So you do kind of check mark to get the line to break. Okay, I'm going to adhere this to the base, making sure to get it straight, because I'm really OCD about that kind of stuff. And I was thinking I would pop this up, but then I decided not to. And I want to put a little bit of this washi tape that has the sun in it to bring in that shine part of the sentiment, the rain or shine. So I'm going to tear a piece of this off. Or well, actually, I guess I cut it. I'm a liar. Okay. And I want to put it above where the greeting's going to fall. So I'm going to position everything so that there's a little sun peeking above my greeting. Right there. I want to get it straight. I want to make sure that the sun is showing up above, and to get a few of those little clouds in there, just because it's fun. I love washi tape. I love Doodlebug washi tape a lot. If I had my way, I'd own all of it. Okay, I decided I wanted to move the sun a little further over so that it wasn't like right next to the circle, so I pull this up and I moved it. And once I'm satisfied, let's see, I'm going to position everything again. That looks good. Yes, that looks good. So I'm going to trim off the rest of the washi tape that I don't need. I'm going to trim it right next to the mat there. And make sure that's nice and stuck down. I'm going to adhere my circle with the image on it. I got to make sure I get that horizon line like level so that it's not crooked when I put it down. Use some more of that Tombow Extreme, really good stuff. And I'll put that right there. Originally I was going to put this on some pattern paper, but it was just too busy. The amount of detail in the image really fought with the pattern paper, so I decided not to use pattern paper and go with this stenciled image instead in the back. And I really like it that way. So I'm going to stick this flat down, and I want to make sure that it's level when I do that. And that's just right, just a little bit of it peeking out. So I'm going to stick this down, and I'm going to grab, it doesn't want to come up. It just wants to swing. Okay. I'm going to stick it down, make sure I got enough adhesive on it. I didn't have enough at the end. Stick it down there. Again, making sure I got it in the right spot. I want to make sure it's level. So I grabbed my T-square just to make sure that it was going parallel to the bottom at right angles to the side. There we go. And now I'm going to put the greeting up on a little piece of fun foam. I save all the little scraps of fun foam because I like it so much better than using the double stick foam tape, though sometimes I use that as well, just depending. It goes through the mail better. It doesn't leave lines on the front of your cardstock from the pressure that you get with the mail machines and from being in a big sack with a bunch of other mail. So in general I use this unless the size of what I'm doing fits on a piece of foam tape really well, or I just have to go around a lot of curves or something that is really hard to do with fun foam. So I just save all the little scraps and use it to pop up greetings. And I use the Tombow Extreme with the fun foam because it really does stick well to it, and it's fairly easy to apply to it. A lot of adhesives will just not stick to the foam tape when you're trying to lay them down. And so I'm going to pop that right there. That looks good. Stick it down. Pat, pat. Alrighty. The last thing I'm going to add are my Doodlebug sprinkles. Now these are the primary ones which aren't available anymore, but you can get the orange ones that I ended up using here because it's really closer to orange, those boots, and I wanted to carry that orange into a third spot to sort of make that visual triangle that you want to get on your card front. And so I use the orange ones. You can get those in the Puppy Love assortment, so I have a link to that below instead. And those look good. I'm going to fold my card. And it's done. I hope you enjoyed my video. I really love these rain effects. They look really great. You can subscribe to my channel when you get to the end card by clicking on my picture or clicking on my subscribe button. You can go to my blog or you can shop below in the links below. Thanks for watching. Bye.